Hi.
So let's start.
This is actually all about standing in someone else's shoes. I believe that if we can understand the values behind culture, we can understand people better. We can accept them for who they are, for what they stand for where they are coming from, and will have a more productivity, will have a less violence, and we can live in peace. Now, when I say culture, I mean the set of unwritten norms that guide people's behavior and give them a sense of what is right and what is wrong, what is appropriate and what is not. Today, we can measure control. We use tools developed by Professor Hofstadter that allow us to measure control based on statistics and how people react to different situations. What of that I identified was that all communities basically have five dilemmas. Five dilemmas that they have to cope with one way or another. These are hierarchy versus equality, individualism versus collectivism, performance orientation versus caring for others or quality of life, uncertainty, avoid or not worrying about uncertainty, and flexibility versus discipline. Now, the research of Hofstadter is not new, but these dilemmas we are still valid. They have been with us for centuries, and they continue to be valid today. Let's look at some of these dilemmas. The guy in white is the Prime Minister of Thailand. So how come he is sitting on the floor? Because the guy behind the desk is the king of Thailand. Thailand is a very hierarchical country. It has what we call a big power distance. In high power distance societies like Thailand's, it's very important to show the power distance among the different ranks in the hierarchy, even among the two most powerful people in that society. Now, this guy over here is the Prime Minister of Sweden. But he is standing in a line to use the ATM like everyone else. Sweden is a low power distant culture. In a low power distant culture, there is also hierarchy. There is also power distant, but it's much more subtle. It's not so evident. Now this is the Princess of Denmark. And Denmark is also an egalitarian culture, low power distance. So how come she is getting the red carpet treatment and people are throwing petals at her feet? Because he is not in Denmark. She is visiting Thailand. This is how people in Thailand treat royalty. Even if it is not their own royalty, it is somebody come from abroad, and maybe this is why the Princess of Denmark enjoys visiting Thailand so much, because he would never get this treatment in Denmark. Now this is very important because it is the people at the bottom of the social pyramid that determine whether the society in high power distance hierarchical or not. It is not dictator who determines the dictatorship. It is a people at the bottom who accept a dictator or do not accept a dictator. They are the ones who determine if a society is a hierarchical or egalitarian, and it all begins in childhood. When we are less than 10 years old, That is when we all learn what is the right and what is the wrong, what is appropriate and what is not appropriate in our community. That is when we learn in which ways of those dilemmas in our community going.
Let me give you
Let me give you
a couple of
a
examples.
couple of examples.